everyone, and welcome to the Political Job Interview, where I interview candidates running for election. I'm Vincenzo Calla, the host, and today I take on the role as the boss, giving a job interview to today's candidate, Dominik Janelle. Dominik is running for election for Ottawa City Council as a candidate for Ward 24, Barrhaven East. Thank you, Dominik, for your time, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Vincenzo. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you here, and without further ado, let's get this job interview started. As with any good job interview, I'm starting off with an opportunity to learn more about Dominik. So the first question, Dominik, is can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Dominik Janelle. I've lived in Barrhaven for 13 years. I've pretty much grown up here, attending St. Andrew's Catholic School and Longfields Davidson Heights Secondary School. So I've pretty much grown up and had my education within our new ward. So it's been a nice experience to kind of grow up within Barrhaven. It's a beautiful community, and to really have it ingrained in my heart is really special, and I hold something a cause I hold dear to me. I'm also a military kid. My father served as for 36 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. We moved around a lot through my upbringing, from Borden to Quebec City, to Columbus, Georgia in the United States, and also in London, England. So I've had my fair chance of traveling abroad, but my hometown, our home base, as you might say, was always Barrhaven. And I always appreciated what it was for Barrhaven because it gave that sense of community as we traveled around the world. And you know what? As much as I say I like the other places a lot, I gotta say Barrhaven, it's where my heart is and it's where my home is.
Well, Barrhaven's a great place to be. I mean, I'm 18 now, and all 18 years of my life I've lived in Barrhaven. The first 14 or so in your ward, and then the other half, the other 4 years now in the other ward of Barrhaven West. And it's such a great community to be in, a great community with lots of great people, and a mini city within a city, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to go on to the next question, which is why have you decided to run for this position?
Going back to a 2022, the ward boundary review, which was the result for the creation of the Barrhaven ward. I was always interested in municipal politics, following it through as I graduated from high school and entered my university years studying computer science. I always had a keen interest in municipal politics since it was the most local politics and the ones you could see most practical in your day-to-day life. So when I found out that we were going to have a ward boundary review, and the reason for that is that Barrhaven and Gloucester South Nepean, Ward 3 and Ward 22 respectively, were the two most populous wards in 2021, both having around 60,000 members. So with that, it means we have a high density population, and as you said it perfectly, a city within a city. The chance to represent that, I couldn't pass up on it, and even so, that I've ended up putting my final year of my degree on hold to have the chance to represent the representatives and the beautiful people of Barrhaven. As lived here for 13 years, one of you. I've grown up here. I probably have seen me pass the street one way or another. I've worked at the Tim Hortons down the street on Fallowfield and around the neighborhood, and I also volunteer with the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority as a community service member. And so you probably have seen me or some aspects of my work in one way or another. And let's just say that I hope I can continue going forward. And the chance to represent that ward, my community, my home base was just something I couldn't pass up on. It was part of the reason I ended up filing my nominations first.
Well, you raised a good point about being local. And I'd like to say all politics are local in Canada, and we're lucky because of that, because we have federally and provincially, we have the MPP system, and obviously municipally we have 24 councillors. Now we're going to have 24 councillors in the next city council. So it's great that we have our local politics here, and you can get a lot done in city council compared to other levels of government, and being able to represent your community and get things done for your community are great things, and we'll actually touch on that in the third segment. But we're going to take a bit of time to talk about the job now and what Dominik brings to it. So the first question I like to ask is, why do you think you are the best candidate for this job?
So at my very core, I'm a very analytical and a very research approach type of person. I always like finding out more information and as well as seeing every side to the issue. in that regard, as I believe in cooperation above all. Policy over party is a motto ingrained in me. That at the end of the day, is to help the most people for the most amount of effort, policy, whatever it is that the issue being tackled. To see across party lines is something that I've had the experience of through a multicultural upbringing, through my travels abroad. I've had that experience of working with different kinds of people, different kinds of culture, and different languages, as I am part Francophone and being fully bilingual. So I do have that aspect of communicating and working well with others, and as well as having a highly analytical and statistical approach to things, as being a software developer and having held jobs in the private industry for 2 years and public industry for a few years as well. I've had that analytical approach working at Statistics Canada, Economic Social Development Canada, and as well as the Communications Research Council Canada, and all of which deal with problem solving in more aspects of software development, but it's all skills that can be translated into being your next city councillor, as it takes an informative approach to read all the paperwork behind it, all the legislation, and as well as to enforce the policy and have a keen interest for the statistics and the analytics behind it, as at the end of the day, those are best represent the facts.
Before I respond to that, I'm going to add the second part to that question in, which is what experience do you bring to this job, and maybe continue on that train of thought.
Yeah. So my experience, as I mentioned, I do have quite a varied work experience through my internship program at my Carleton University throughout my computer science degree, and that has entailed then with me working in the public and the private sector, all of which provided skills to me that are transferable into the job. So some of those include at Rockport Networks, I was handling breadboards and being a very minute details on fixing soldering details within the breadboards. So that requires a keen insight and as well as keen precision into making sure that it stays locally contained within the segment of the copper wiring of the breadboard and not spreading out. So it's little things like that in which became transferable throughout my other employments. And I have quite the varied resume behind myself. I've worked at Tim Hortons, at a Cassidy's Moving and Storage out in Canada as a moving company, at the local Tim Hortons, and as well as at Rockport Networks, Alcatel-Lucent before they were bought out, and at Statistics Canada, Economic Social Development Canada, and Communications Research Council Canada. And my most recent two jobs are at the Party City, just off of Mayorvale, and as well as a French tutor for the Ottawa Catholic District School Board. So quite a varied sort of resume behind me, but all of which have given me a different kinds of skill set, which have taught me a different aspect to what I would like to bring to council, all of which could be ranging from cooperation to better representation through a Francophone minority, or just keen position to detail and being able to point out discrepancies or any things of the sort, as I'm also have a few volunteer experiences behind them myself as well. My main, I would say my primary one being the local treasurer for my fraternity, of which has to deal with dealing with budgets and creating expenditures and procurements, all of which are skills, like, once again, transferable to council. And with my varied skill set, I'm hoping I can use all of that and all of my experience to best represent Barrhaven.
Well, you connected computer science to politics, and that is something that has never happened on my channel before and probably won't happen for a while. But it's interesting, I always like to talk about the paths that bring everybody to politics, and how no matter whether you are in computer science like you are and worked at Tim Hortons and worked at many different places, a moving company, or whether you are a political pundit on the radio that has been around politics for the longest time, or if you're a lawyer or a mortgage broker, whatever, it's always important that people that understand different walks of life and are from different walks of life join politics, especially local politics on the municipal level, because that's where you can have so much impact. Like I was saying before, you have so much impact and you can bring forward so many great ideas and things to your city council if you're elected. Part of serving as an elected official is serving the people who elect you. So here are a few questions about how Dominik wants to serve the people. So the first question is, what is something that the people you would like to serve need that you would like to get done if elected?
So something that I've been hearing a lot through our throughout my door-to-door canvassing, and as well as something I've noticed myself, is that our infrastructure has kind of been a little neglected in both our roads and our sidewalks as well. And even can propagate that outwards to even saying our park infrastructure and things such as that. The reason behind that and the purpose and the cause for that is with the separation of the previous ward boundaries, being Barrhaven East specifically was torn up between Barrhaven and Riverside South. So we were kind of like in the middle of two different communities seeking two different things. So Barrhaven East didn't really have the time nor the representation it needed to address those local issues, such as the infrastructure, to tackle that. And that's part of the reason, one of the things I would like to address being on your next city councilor for Barrhaven East is to address the issues on our local infrastructure, as constantly we have our potholes and driveway cracks in both our roads and our driveways, and as well as our sidewalks. So all of which can, at some parts, it does lead to accessibility issues. And while there is a construction map for the city of Ottawa, right now there's only one road who's undergoing surface repavement and maintenance, as well as two others. This is from the Ottawa.ca construction map, a nice little graphic visual showing all the construction, of which I have an interactive map version on my website. I implore you to check it out. So a nice grasping of the visual construction coming to Barrhaven, and with the population density, and which is only posed to continue to grow over the next decade, as we are one of the fastest growing suburbs and one of the fastest growing wards, it's imperative that we take the care in the infrastructure now so that we don't have the strain on it, especially with the sortation facility coming to the South Maryvale Business Park, as with now heavyweight vehicles on our roads are going to cause more strain on it. So it's more imperative that we have better maintained roads for the future.
Well, you raised a lot of good points there, and the first one being the reason why the ward was separated. I mean, I lived in that ward for many years, and by no fault of the councillor themselves, there was always, like you said, that separation of Riverside South and Barrhaven, which are two very different communities and two very different areas in the city with very different needs. So good first step for the city for separating that. Barrhaven is, again, a growing community, a big community, and separating it into two Barrhaven wards to focus on the needs of Barrhaven alone is a great step, and being able to use that to your advantage for those local issues, like you said, like the infrastructure upgrades. I think everybody, no matter where you are in the city, but especially in Barrhaven, always points out the need for the potholes to be filled and for the sidewalks to be repaved and for the parks to be maintained and upkept. And those are all very important things that impact our day-to-day lives, really.
It really does. I was just going to add one
Yeah.
little quick comment there is I'm also the local caretaker for Redpath Park. And even then, the damages it incurred throughout our storms, throughout the recent windy storms we've had, experiencing a bit more this year, that has been damage to our parks, including from like old wooden fences and not even signs for the names of the parks. So it's like little things like that in which we generally don't notice or take, if we do it, we take it for granted. So it's just a bit of bringing a standardization to the level of infrastructure to Barrhaven.
Definitely, and just making sure that everything is well kept in those little quality of life things that here in Canada we can afford, and being able to make sure that everything is upkept to its greatest. So we're going to go on to the second question of this segment, which is what is one accomplishment that you have achieved that demonstrates why you would be a good elected official if the people choose you?
So I think one of the good reasons, one of the good accomplishments I can attend to, is the local community avocation and the spreading of information about Barrhaven East. This is one of the things I take the most pride in, as being the first candidate to file, and as well as being informed of when the boundary was happening back in 2021 in October. That is when I first started advocating for our new ward, as a lot of people just generally didn't know that Barrhaven East became a new ward. It wasn't information that was communicated too well from the city or for our councillors to ourselves. So it was through a lot of self-research that we had to find out that information. And I, even before May, before I could start going door to door, I was going around spreading information about the fact that we became a new electorate. Because while the voter turnout, there does seem to be a bit of voter apathy, as shown in the provincial election with around 40% turnout for this area here in Barrhaven. It's important to know that even with that, that just reinforces the fact that, you know, information still needs to be spread. And that was part of the reason, and one of the accomplishments I can hold myself to, is that I know for a fact through my door-to-door canvassing, I have informed a hefty percentage of the electorate in getting them up to speed on the most pressing issues for our ward, as it's where they live, it's where we live, and as we're all Barrhavenites, as I say, we're all together, and you know, it's one of the best communities. Our sign says Barrhaven Welcome Home in both French and English, so it really is our home, and really want to take care of it. And the accomplishment I can say is I've done the advocation and the spreading information for others about our home and about our ward.
And definitely something really important and something that we'll leave the interview off on today. So thank you, Dominik, for joining me today. It was so great having you, and I'm sure the viewers have enjoyed hearing what you have to offer to them. Election day is on October 24th, 2022, and if you liked hearing what Dominik had to say, and you live in Ward 24, Barrhaven East, you have the opportunity to vote for him on Election Day. Check with your local election officials for more details. To stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at VCProductions25. Check out my website, vincenzocalla.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell here on YouTube. The political job interview is a VCalla production. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.